Most people fall apart the moment their career puts them under real pressure. They mistake panic for instinct and call it passion. That reaction is costing you opportunities you will never get back. There is a moment every professional eventually faces. The room goes quiet. All eyes are on you. A decision needs to be made, a conversation needs to be had, or something has gone seriously wrong. And in that moment, your body does something your mind did not ask for. Your heart rate climbs. Your thinking gets cloudy. Your words come out wrong. You either freeze, explode, or shut down completely. This is not weakness, but if you never learn to manage it, it will define the ceiling of your career. Emotional regulation is not about suppressing what you feel. It is about refusing to let your feelings make decisions your judgment should be making. High-performing professionals are not people who feel nothing. They feel everything. They have simply trained themselves to create a gap between what they feel and how they respond. That gap is where your career either grows or stalls. The first thing you need to understand is that pressure is not the enemy. Pressure is information. When you feel it rising in a high-stakes meeting, during a difficult performance review, or in the middle of a conflict with a manager or client, your nervous system is signaling that something important is happening. The problem is, most people treat that signal like a fire alarm and start running. Professionals who advance treat it like a dashboard warning light. They slow down, assess, and respond deliberately. Breathing is not a soft skill. It is a physiological tool. When you are under pressure and you take slow, controlled breaths, you are directly communicating with your nervous system. You are telling your body that the threat is manageable. This is not motivational advice. This is basic biology. The professionals who use it consistently have a measurable advantage over those who dismiss it as too simple. Your internal dialogue during pressure determines your external performance. If the voice in your head is saying you are not prepared, that people are judging you, or that you might fail, your behavior will reflect exactly that. Changing that voice is not about positive thinking. It is about honest, grounded self-talk. Ask yourself what you actually know. Remind yourself of the preparation you put in. Bring your attention back to the task in front of you, not the story you are telling about what might happen. One of the most overlooked aspects of emotional regulation in a career context is the pause before you speak. Under pressure, silence feels dangerous. Most people rush to fill it. But the pause is where your credibility lives. When a colleague challenges your work in front of leadership, the professional who pauses, thinks, and then responds clearly is always perceived as more capable than the one who reacts immediately from emotion. You also need to separate the event from your identity. A tough quarter is not proof that you are failing. A missed deadline is not evidence that you do not belong. A difficult conversation with your boss is not a signal that your career is over. When you fuse these events to your self-worth, every piece of pressure becomes personal. And personal pressure is the hardest kind to regulate. High-pressure moments in your career will not stop coming. The higher you climb, the more frequent and intense they become. The people who make it to the top are not the ones who avoided pressure. They are the ones who kept showing up, kept thinking clearly, and kept performing when everyone else was reacting. That is a skill. It is built through repetition, honest self-reflection, and a daily commitment to staying in control of yourself, regardless of what is happening around you. Start now. Your next high-pressure moment is closer than you think. By now, you understand that emotional regulation is a skill, not a personality trait. Some people appear naturally calm under pressure, What you are actually seeing is the result of years of deliberate practice and hard lessons. Nobody is born knowing how to stay composed when their job is on the line, when a project collapses in front of a client, or when leadership calls them into a room with no explanation. That composure is built, and the building process is not comfortable. One of the most practical things you can do to improve your emotional regulation at work is to study your own patterns. Most people react to pressure without ever analyzing why. They get defensive in feedback sessions and never ask themselves what triggered that defensiveness. They shut down in conflict and never examine what specifically caused the shutdown. If you do not know your triggers, you cannot manage them. Start paying attention to the moments when you lose your composure, even slightly. Write them down. Look for patterns. The self-awareness that comes from that process is more valuable than any training program your company will ever offer you. Your physical state directly affects your emotional state. This is not abstract. If you are walking into a high-stakes presentation after 4 hours of sleep, skipping meals, and carrying 2 weeks of unresolved stress, your ability to regulate will already be compromised before the meeting begins. Professionals who consistently perform under pressure are usually people who are managing their physical condition with the same seriousness they bring to their work. Sleep, nutrition, and basic physical health are not lifestyle choices separate from your career. They are inputs that determine how well your brain functions when it matters most. Preparation is one of the most underrated emotional regulation tools available to you. When you are underprepared, pressure feels unbearable because uncertainty is layered on top of it. When you are genuinely well prepared, pressure becomes more manageable because your competence gives you something solid to stand on. Before any high-stakes moment at work, do the preparation that most people skip. Anticipate the hard questions. Think through the worst-case scenarios. Know your material deeply enough that nerves do not erase your knowledge. Preparation does not eliminate pressure. It gives you a foundation to regulate from. You also need to get honest about the role that ego plays in your emotional reactions at work. A significant portion of workplace emotional dysregulation comes from people feeling disrespected, overlooked, or undervalued. Those feelings are real. But when ego is driving your emotional responses, you will consistently misread situations, take things personally that were not personal, and make decisions based on protecting your image rather than solving the actual problem. The professional who can set ego aside in a high-pressure moment and focus entirely on the outcome is the one who earns lasting respect, not the one who fights hardest to be right. Recovery is part of regulation. You will not always handle pressure perfectly. There will be moments where you snap at a colleague, where you go blank in a presentation, where you say the wrong thing in a difficult conversation. What separates professionals who grow from those who stagnate is how quickly and honestly they recover. Acknowledge what happened. Do not dramatize it. Correct what needs to be corrected. Move forward. The ability to recover without excessive self-criticism or deflection is itself a form of emotional regulation. And it is one that most people never develop because they are too busy either beating themselves up or blaming someone else. The long game in any serious career belongs to people who can sustain performance across years of pressure, not just survive 1 or 2 difficult moments. That sustainability comes from building the internal infrastructure to handle what the job demands, not by pretending the pressure is not there, not by convincing yourself it does not affect you, but by training consistently and seriously to stay in control of yourself. when everything around you is demanding that you lose it. Everything you have read so far comes down to one central truth. Your career will only grow as far as your ability to manage yourself under pressure allows it to. Talent is common, skill is learnable, but the capacity to stay grounded, think clearly, and perform consistently when the stakes are high is genuinely rare. And it is that capacity, more than your resume, more than your credentials, more than your network, that determines how far you actually go. There is a specific kind of pressure that most career advice never addresses honestly. It is the pressure that comes from sustained high performance over time. Not one difficult meeting, not one bad quarter, but years of consistently being expected to deliver, lead, and produce results while managing people, managing up, and managing your own internal state simultaneously. That kind of pressure accumulates. And if you do not have a system for processing it, it does not disappear. It builds until it comes out in ways that damage your reputation, your relationships, and your health. The professionals who last at the highest levels of any industry are not superhuman. They have simply built routines that allow them to process pressure before it becomes a problem. They debrief after difficult situations rather than burying them. They have people in their lives, mentors, peers, or professionals, with whom they can speak honestly about what they are carrying. They set boundaries around their time and energy not because they are selfish, but because they understand that a depleted person cannot regulate effectively. These are not luxuries. They are requirements for long-term performance.